Welcome in. So probably one of the challenges to meditation I help people with the most is consistency in practice. It's a weekly, I would say like multi-weekly occurrence when I'm working with my one-to-one mentees and in classes that I teach. And it's just so ubiquitous. It's so common in meditation that from time to time I like to talk about it and share some content on what I'm often sharing with my students and mentees. And so hopefully some of this can be helpful for you if you're struggling with some of the same things. And probably the first thing I want to say is just normalizing it. I hope just by the comment I just said, which is that it occurs multiple times per week in different sessions with mentees. A conversation on challenges with consistent meditation. That it's just normal. Most of us experience some form or some lows in consistency. I guess maybe I should define consistency a little bit here. When I say consistency, I mean a consistent formal meditation practice, morning, night, whatever, but some amount of time spent formally on meditation each day. But I guess you could define consistency a little different if you want, and that's fine. That's just how I define it. So we all know, if we're meditators out there, how important consistency is, how much it adds to our life, and how much it helps us to progress in our meditation practice, understanding of the Dharma, and of course, actual transformation within the Dharma. So that's good. But at the same time, I think in particular, what I've seen with some folks I work with, it's not just struggles in consistency, but the discouragement that comes with that. And this is where I would say it starts to get a little bit into the danger zone. And by danger zone, I also, want to normalize that. That does happen to quite a few people, at least people, I work with. And discouragement is when that when they're consistently struggling with consistency, right? When they're struggling with consistency a little bit, and then they get back on the horse, then they fall off, then they get back on, that kind of thing. And what I can see over time is a kind of a discouragement where they might even just take a long break from meditation. They might take a break from our work together because they've lost some confidence. So I like to create an intervention before that actually happens, because when we lose confidence, it takes all of the energy out of something that actually maybe we just need a different approach to the kind of energy we're putting into that. For instance, how we're cultivating energy for our formal meditation practice. And sometimes I'll say to people, this might apply to you too, take a break, just do it informally, right? Connect with mindfulness and awareness throughout the day. Don't be too, fixed on it needing to look a certain way. And then, of course, a few weeks later, we come back and talk about bringing in a formal practice again. But either way, I really put this under the category of holding things lightly, right? So what I'm learning to do, definitely I'm not good at it, but I'm learning, I'm practicing, is holding things in my life a little bit more lightly. And something that's important, something that requires our energy and effort, something that's meaningful to us, or that helps us to have more contentment, freedom, and ease in our life, we need to hold it. If we don't hold it, it's not there and it goes away. So we need to hold it. Now here's the question of how tightly we're holding it, right? So what I found that is the tighter I hold something, the less the chance of me developing consistency with that, because I'll just get tired. I'll get exhausted. In meditation, I have quite a lot of willpower because I've developed it over the years. But still, if I'm tight or tense in my meditation, it becomes rigid. It becomes dry. I end up just going through the motions. And of course, I see this in others as well. So that's the first thing I would say. Just, try to see how much you're holding it, and can you hold it lighter, but you don't want to hold it so light that it just disappears, right? Because then we don't have anything to be consistent with anymore. So just try that, work with the difference between, holding tight versus just holding. The second is sort of something I don't know if there's a way around, which is that we need to put energy into it, and we need to put effort, right? But again, this kind of relates to that holding tightly versus just holding. That effort, when we're just holding, it doesn't have to look a certain way. I often tell people it's not about the amount of time. It's more about what you can be consistent with, because we can always add time to it. But if you spend a month or 3 months doing, I don't know, 5-10 minutes a day, and you've cultivated that, that's going to build your confidence, and there's less of a chance of that discouragement I was talking about. So through holding it lightly, through holding it well, we focus on consistency, not quantity, right? And then we build up our confidence in it. This leads me to my next point, which is sometimes we replace confidence in the effort we're putting into something, meaning we should generate or cultivate confidence in the energy we're putting into something, or confidence in the consistency. But some people replace that, or get that confused with confidence in what they're getting out of it. Now, of course, we need to get something out of our meditation practice. There's lots of ideas on what that thing is, or what those things are. I'm a fan of lineage-based Buddhism, so those things would be related to the teachings, the traditional teachings on Dharma and the pursuit of awakening and freedom and compassion. But either way, sometimes we can get tripped up in, we don't think we're getting what we should be out of meditation. And so it starts to lose steam. We start to get discouraged. And then, of course, the consistency will drop off at some point. So I think that's a surefire way to interrupt our consistency, which is getting a little too obsessed about results. Now, again, as I said, we should check on what's happening in the practice every so often. But if we become obsessed with that, we won't be able to sustain consistency, because we might have some idea of what it should look like or what we should be getting out of it, right? And often those ideas don't necessarily equate to what would be what would serve us well, right? Like what would actually be desirable, right? So I'll just give one example here. Sometimes we get really obsessed with calm. And if there's not calm happening in the meditation, that somehow we're doing it wrong, or we're unsuccessful at it. Calm is great. It's like kind of a useful thing. It's like I just consider it a platform, like a base that then we develop deeper states of mind and deeper intentions on. But actually, calm's not that interesting, from a larger perspective of what meditation can provide, especially when it comes to lineage-based Buddhism. Calm is a I guess we could say it's like a platform that can serve deepening practice into compassion and wisdom, but it is not necessarily a destination in itself. And I don't know, I don't find it the most interesting thing. Though, of course, if I'm completely all over the place, it's going to be very difficult to develop these deeper insights into the Dharma that eventually create more freedom. So yeah, it's important. But if we put too much on it, we may get discouraged if we're not experiencing it. We may start to build up, a resistance to meditation because we think we're doing it wrong, or we need to get some other, we need to change it up, get some other style of meditation or teacher or whatever. When actually we just need to look at what we think we should be getting out of it and kind of reorganize that. So consistency is a big one. You can watch some of my previous content, or if you're listening to my audio podcast, I have a bunch of different content on different ways to cultivate consistency. But the main, what I wanted to really talk about today was remedying discouragement when the confidence starts to wane, and how to shift out of that, right? But of course, consistency is about, in my opinion, less is more. It's about developing that showing up to the cushion every day rather than obsessing about the quantity. And then, of course, if you need some breaks, do that consciously, but make some kind of plan or program for yourself so you can come back with energy, right? Sometimes we do need to take a break and just do meditation informally, but probably what you'll notice is if that turns into a few weeks, a month, a few months, we actually start to lose the efficacy of how we're training in mindfulness and awareness and compassion in our daily life, because the power isn't there, the energy isn't there. It's just like similar to if we are doing an activity that requires strength and we stop strength training, that activity is also going to begin to wane over time. So basically, don't fool yourself, but also hold it lightly. Don't hold it too tightly, and have compassion for yourself. The meditation is hard, really doing it. And, as a long-term process, especially with lineage-based Buddhism, it's challenging, right? So we do have to be gentle with ourselves. And if we take away the idea, the striving in sort of an unhealthy way, we can find an approach that's sustainable. So again, these are just some ideas on what that might be for you. But of course, you have to experiment with yourself. That's really where the meaning comes, is bringing the practice in, studying the Dharma, applying it to our life, and growing and learning from that. So wish you well in your practice. And as always, feel free to reach out with any questions. You can always reach out to me at scotttusa.com, or if you're watching on YouTube, please comment. If you're listening on a podcast platform, you're listening to the audio version of this, go comment on YouTube. I'd really appreciate it. Okay, thanks so much.